Good morning. Welcome to the Feature Spotlight webinar for this month. I'm Dale Franks, and let's jump right into it, shall we? So let me share my screen if I can remember how to do that. There we go. At the end of last month, we released Process Director 6.1 with the new Process Director user interface. Now, in the last couple of months, we have looked at the interface, and we've looked at pieces of it here and there, but we've never had a chance to get a holistic look at what Process Director will look like for especially administrative users moving forward. So today, we are going to go from the beginning, and we are going to discuss the new Process Director user interface. So in doing, there are three main areas where the user interface is now radically different than what it was in version 5 and in previous versions. We've made changes to add a brand new Process Director homepage, which we are going to take a look at in some detail. The tabbed interface for Process Director has been removed. It has been replaced by a new menu-driven interface. There are 5 menus that we'll be taking a look at today. And then finally, the content list has been extensively changed and upgraded to make it far more useful than it used to be. And that will be the third portion of our presentation for today. So with that in mind, let's talk about the new homepage. Now, the new homepage will show up by default for all administrative users. And before I go any further, I think I should make it clear that almost everything that we are going to look at today, we're going to look at it as if we were looking at it from the administrative standpoint. Some things haven't changed in Process Director, one of which is that your end users do not get to see any of the administrative functions. So many of these menus will not appear for them. Moreover, most of them will just see the workspaces to which they are a member, and that will not change. They will still see their workspaces. They will not see this new homepage because the new homepage only appears for administrative users. So for your end users, things are going to be a little bit different. Generally, end users don't have access to the content list, so they certainly wouldn't see that. They won't see the new home page because they are given their own UI based on the workspaces that you create for them. And even the menus that appear, they'll certainly not see all of them. In fact, they may not see any menus at all, depending on the user interface that you create for them, although if a user is a member of more than one workspace, they will see the workspaces menu, so they will at least get that. So they'll be able to choose whatever workspace they want to see and work in while they're in Process Director. So let's just keep in mind that what we're looking at are what we, as the Process Director administrators and implementers, are going to see. And the primary changes to the user interface benefit those of us who administer Process Director rather more than it benefits the end users. So as I had just said, the homepage is default, but it is optional. So you will be given a choice the very first time you open up Process Director to choose whether to keep the homepage or just to go back to the standard workspace. So the standard workspaces still exist, they're still there. So if you remember the admin workspace and that's what you want to see, then that's what you will see. However, you can change that at any time in the user profile. We'll look at that in a moment. I would like to show you the option that it gets presented on the first run to whether you want to use the home page, which is the default option, or whether you want to revert back to the old workspace view. I can't because I have logged in on every user, so it's all set for all of my users, but there is a screenshot of it in the documentation in the implementer's guide in the Navigator UI topic of the implementer's guide in our online documentation. The homepage consists of some action tiles at the top. The action tiles that you see will be slightly different whether you are looking on the production server rather than on a stage or a dev server. I'll explain that whenever I show you the home page. That again is also configured as well, depending on what server you're on. There is also a recently modified section. So the last several items that you have worked on will show up in their own section. So you can just get to them directly from the home page, like the last item you worked on when you reopen Process Director. If you need to reopen that again, you just click on it and it just takes you straight to that object. You don't have to navigate back to find whatever it was that you were working on. That just shows you in the home page. There's also a favorite section that you get to configure so that items that you return to frequently, you can just select them right for your homepage, and you can set those favorites via the content list. So with that in mind, let's go ahead and take a look at it. This is the new homepage for Process Director. Let's just talk about the UI in general. We'll talk about each of these pieces of the UI in detail in a few minutes. Up at the very top, as you can see, you have 4 menus up here. Home, and that simply opens the home page when you click on it, so you can always get back to the home page. The content list, clicking on that will open up the content list. We're not going to keep it open right now. We'll take a closer look at it in a minute, but for now, just know that you can open it up, and if you don't want to see it, you can just click anywhere outside of the content list. It will disappear and take you back to the home page. Your workspaces menu shows you all of the workspaces of which you are a member on this particular machine. I'm a member of 2 workspaces, the admin profile and the user profile, and you can navigate to any of those profiles simply by picking the workspace that you want, and it will navigate you to that profile. And then there are the settings menus, and that will take you to the various administrative settings. And then there's another menu here, which is your user profile menu. It's been moved from that little tiny, almost unnoticeable rectangle that used to be over on the far left-hand side of the screen. It has now been moved over to the far right, and that's all of your user profile items, which we'll discuss in more detail. The navigation bar for your workspace has not changed. So as you can see, looking here at the very top of my screen, we can see that I am in the admin profile workspace. There are 2 buttons here, the Home and Data Flow Analyzer button. We'll talk about the differences in how the navigation bar works in just a moment when we talk about the menus. So now we're down to the home page itself. At the very top of the home page, there are 3 main tiles. There is a Create New tile, and if you click Create, it will walk you through a wizard that enables you to just build an object right from the home page. You pick an object, we'll just pick a business rule in this case. We hit next, and then we give it an object name, and then we select a folder for it. So we can just create we'll just call this webinar rule, and we will select the webinar folder in which we want to build it, I guess. And then notice I didn't have to open up the content list. I didn't have to navigate to this folder. I can do this straight from the home page via a wizard. I hit next. It'll give me a confirmation screen. Are we really sure that we want to do this? We're going to build a business rule named Webinar Rule, and it's going to go in the webinar folder as our destination folder. Is that what we want to do? It is. So I'm going to go ahead and hit Create. That has now been created. So I can close this, and Process Director is now going to navigate me to this new business rule that I have created in the webinar folder. And in fact, if I open up the content list, and well, I scroll down here, you can see at the very, 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 very bottom of the screen, the webinar rule exists inside the webinar folder. I simply created it from the home page, and now I've got my business rule, and I can do whatever it is that I need to do to finish configuring the business rule definition that I just created from the home page. I have 2 similar action tiles at the very top. I can create from a template. All of the menus work in the same way. And so since we only have a half hour, I'm not going to go into detail on each one of these things. We've already seen one of the wizards, but it's very similar. If I want to create an item from a template, objects that are in the template folder, applications that you've created. For example, I have my application stub right here for the generic application that I create. This is my generic template. And once again, I just go through the wizard hitting next each time that I fill out all the information that I need. Obviously, if it's a new application, I'm going to give it a name. I'm going to pick the folder which it exists. And if I have a subfolder into which I want to place it, I can place it there. And the final thing that I have, and we'll get out of that and go back here to the import. This enables me to import objects into the content list right from the home page. Again, I just upload the item, usually a PDZ file. I select the folder where I want to place that item, and then I click import. It will just import the item for me. These three action tiles will be different on a production server vice a development or staging server. On a production server, you generally shouldn't be creating or items. So you shouldn't be creating business rules or forms, and you shouldn't be creating applications. So if you're on a development server, you can turn these two off simply by specifying that you are on a development server. You will get the import action item. So that item doesn't go away whether you're on staging, dev, or production, because even on a production system, generally you get items onto the system by importing them. So we don't want to get rid of that one. In your user profile, if you're an administrator and you go to your profile, you actually have two items that are very important here. First is your default page after login. This is where you determine whether you want to see the home page or whether you want to just go straight to the workspace and not see your home page. And then right below that, the home page type, whether we're showing a development or staging home page, which is what we're showing now, or whether we just want to show a production homepage, which will only show the import item. In fact, if I go ahead and update it and go back to my home page, it should, assuming I've updated it correctly, there we go. It should now just show me my import action tile. That's the only one I have because I'm now on a production system. This is not a production system, so you'll pardon me if I go back and go ahead and move that back to development staging. And we'll just refresh everything. And there we are. We're now back into a staging system or a development system. Immediately below that are my recently modified items. It just shows me the list of items that I personally have modified. So as you can see, 3 minutes ago, I created a new business rule that now becomes my most recently modified item. And all you have to do is just click on the icon for any of these items. It will open up that item so that you can edit it. So if I click on webinar test, it opens up the webinar test item for me. Finally, below that is your favorites. And these are items that you personally configure, and they're only valid for you. They are your favorites, and you configure them from the content list. So we haven't talked about the content list, but let's open it for just a second. And let's go down here and look at some of these items. So if I go into the support folder, and this is where I work on many of the support tickets that you give me. So let's say DB check. Let's say that I go back and I edit this fairly often. Or here's an analogy, even better example of something that I might edit fairly often. All I have to do to add it to a favorite, you'll notice that now that I've moused over it, not only do I get the tooltip and not only is it highlighted, but over on the right-hand side, there is a star. And so if I click that star, then that item just gets added right to my favorites. So as you can see, it's added it right here as DB export. And anytime I look at it inside the content list, it is starred. Similarly, if I just want to remove it from my favorites, I can just click the star again. And as you can see, we're now back to 4 favorite items. So using the content list, I can just add these favorites. So I can really kind of build my home page. I build it simply by my activity on the system, by populating the recently modified section. And then I just create my own favorites simply by picking them out of the content list and selecting them as favorites. All right, so that is the home page. Let's talk about menus. As I said earlier, the tabbed interface is now gone. It has been replaced by 5 menus. I am including the user profile menu as one of those 5 menus. Also, as I mentioned previously, the menus that you see are based on your role. Since this is my system and I completely own it, I have every possible thing that I could possibly see in the user interface displayed to me. There is a change to the profile navigation or the workspace navigation, which is that if you have some items in your main menus for your workspace, so in the navigation bar for your workspace, if you have some items that are part of the main menu section now, like the ability to access IT admin or metadata admin, those no longer appear in the navigation bar for the workspace. Instead, they're part of the permanent menu system. You don't need to show them in the workspace. So that basically we've built in a thing that edits your workspace menu, so it simply doesn't show items that are in the permanent menus. That does give you a lot more extra space now to create your own workspace menus, especially the administrative menu. But to take a look at what I mean, if we look at this workspace menu, it just says Home and Data Flow Analyzer. Now, in my configuration for this workspace, which obviously was configured long ago, back in version 5, actually probably back in version 4 point something, in that workspace, I also have links configured in the workspace configuration for the content list, for IT admin, for metadata admin. None of them appear here. We're just not showing them because they already exist in the settings menu. So I don't need to have them displayed in my workspace navigation menu. So they're still there. They're still configured. They still exist. Let's go look at them. I think we have some time. If I go into my admin profile, I can actually see my top navigation buttons do contain a link to the content list. Don't need it. Have a menu for that. IT admin, don't need it. Have a menu for it. Metadata admin, don't need it. Have a menu for that. Log off, have a menu item for that. What I don't have built into these top 5 menus is the data flow analyzer and the homepage menu, which is just now going to take me to the homepage, which I believe is just the content list or the old content list in this particular case. But those don't have menus. If I hit home here, it actually just takes me to the content list. That's technically my home for this workspace. And it's not even the content list anymore. It's just the contents pane of what used to be the content list, because that has changed as well. So the home button just shows my home. The content list obviously shows me the content list. Workspaces, which we've looked at, allows me to switch between workspace. That's all well and good, but now I have this settings menu, and this gives me access to both IT admin and metadata admin from anywhere that I need to access them inside Process Director. So prior to this, you would have had to have been in the admin profile, and you'd had to click on IT admin. And then once you got to IT admin, let's say you wanted to administer a user, then you'd have to click through into user administration, and then you'd have to click the users page. We've eliminated a lot of that navigating around. If I want to go to user administration, for example, I just click on user administration and it takes me there. And of course, the users page is the home page for the user administration. And similarly, if I want to go to metadata administration, I just go there automatically. So I have, I cut out at least 2 clicks by getting me to all 5 of the major installation or the major administration areas in your installation from anywhere in Process Director. So that makes my life a little bit easier. And we've also changed what we see with the user profile. Now, it used to be the user profile slide out. That slide out doesn't exist anymore. We now have this drop down menu. I still have access to my user profile, as we saw a few minutes ago, where I can go and I can look at all of my user profile information. But I've also got some extra stuff here that was a little harder to get through before. One thing is the impersonate user that is easier to get to because I can always just click impersonate user and it takes me directly to the impersonate page. So for those of you who have been impersonating in the past, you know how irritating it is to have to constantly go to IT admin and then troubleshooting and then impersonate and then do the impersonate page. Now we've just cut all that out. I just go directly to the impersonate user page right here from the menu, assuming, of course, that I have impersonate permissions. Now, one thing that we did have to address was because we no longer have tabs at the top, we don't have that tab area that we can right click on and move into debug mode. So we've added that to the user profile menu so that I can turn debug mode on or off as I need to. And obviously when debug mode is on, there are different things that you see in the system. For example, I have the link here, and if I go into the content list, I get to see all of these UIDs and things like that that you normally don't see. I prefer not to look at them unless I want them, so I'm just going to go ahead and turn debug mode back off. And with debug mode back off, I can now refresh my content list or my contents pane, and I can see all of the items that I want to see. So those are the menus. I think it's a much easier way of getting around in Process Director. If you're an administrator, I think it makes your life a little bit easier than it used to be just in terms of navigating around. Finally, we have to talk about the content list. As we've seen, the content list menu button is what opens up the content list for you. The content list is pinnable, customizable, and searchable. We'll take a look at all of those three features here in a second. The other nice thing about the new content list is the instances are always accessible in the content list without having to open the definition. If I just want to go straight to the object instances, I can do that right from the content list. And it is, as I believe you'll see, a huge improvement over the previous versions. Before we go further, someone has asked a question. Hi, where do cases open now? That is an excellent question. It takes us a little bit beyond the scope of our topic for today. If I have some time at the very end, we'll take a look at the case. I certainly didn't prep that for today. So honestly, I don't know the answer to your question, but I suspect they show up in the profile menu, but I honestly don't know. I haven't run up a case and tried to use it. So it's 10:23. I have 7 minutes left. We'll see how I'm looking for time at the end. If I can't get to it, I can't get to it. But let's take a look at the content list for now. As I said, the content list is pinnable. Now, by default, it is not, so it disappears if I click out of it. But there is a pin button here, so when I click on it, it actually pins the content list. So now I'm back to a regular content list. It is all pinned. I am a happy camper. And as I said earlier, one of the nice things about the content list is that I now have access to all of my objects. So if I just go down here to this form, and I open up the form node, you can see that I can just click and see all the form instances for that form. Similarly, in the timelines, if I want to see the active timelines, I've got 1 apparently. And if I want to see the completed timelines, I've got 4. So right from the content list, I have access to all of the instances. I don't have to necessarily open the definition. In older versions, you had to open the definition. And what would hopefully happen is that when you open the definition, the instances would be added as nodes to the content list. We no longer do that. We add them as nodes to the content list immediately so that they're always there and always available so that you can navigate directly to those nodes without having to open the object itself. It's a little thing, but I think it's very important. We can, with a set of icons, expand every item in the content list. So we can just expand everything and we can see all of the stuff that I have in my content list. We can also click it once again and it collapses everything. In this case, everything back to where I was. Since I have that active timeline instances selected, it won't collapse that, but everything else got collapsed. There are also a bunch of system folders, obviously, like custom utilities and template library and a whole bunch of those system folders, those folders that are all marked off by square brackets. In most cases, you don't need to look at those on a day-to-day basis, so you can make them disappear. You can just toggle the system folders off, and by turning them off, they will all disappear. And then you only see the folders on your system that you've actually placed content into them. So this becomes a much more convenient way of just turning on and off those content folders. There is also a filter system built in place, actually a search and filter system. So if I was to type, I probably shouldn't do this because I probably have 10,000 items named test on here, but if I type in test, it gives me all of the items named test. That's a lot of items. So I can take my search even further. There is a filter drop down. So, okay, I've got an item line test. Let's look only for drop downs that are named test. Let's click on that. And apparently I don't have any drop downs named test. How about folders? Okay, I have several folders that I have named test. Let's look for a chart. Do I have a chart that's named test? Apparently not, but I bet I've got a whole bunch of forms named test. I probably have a whole bunch of timelines that are named test as well, and probably some business rules. And so as I click and I select these filter items, it's now just giving me everything that's named test. That is also a chart, a form, a rule, a timeline, or what the heck, let's add a test business value because I'm pretty sure I've got one of those there. Why, yes, I do. So I can both search for the name of an item using the search bar, and I can then further narrow down the items that I want simply by the object that I select inside the filter box. And as you can see, I've even got somewhere, it's obviously an old one, it's down in the archive. It's in support, in fact, archive. So this probably goes back a little while, but I've got a workflow that is named test here in my support. So this is probably something I'm certain it's something that I did for a customer. So this new content list makes finding stuff a lot easier. It reduces the need to do a bunch of navigating around. Obviously, if I'm done with my search, in fact, let's do this. Let me pick this process timeline so that we can open it. Now I've got my process timeline open, and I'm just going to go ahead and I'm going to get rid of that search. And I'm also just going to collapse everything to get me back to where I am, and note that I am looking at the test timeline. And even though I told the content list to collapse everything, it still kept something uncollapsed. The archive folder is uncollapsed. And the reason that it's uncollapsed is because I'm inside that archive folder. I'm inside the Dale subfolder and inside a subfolder called form read only. And then there is the process timeline that I have open in the contents pane on the right, that test process timeline, which is also highlighted here on the left, as the content list sort of keeps up with where I am on the contents pane so that I know what my location is at all times. And also notice that even though I said to collapse all, it did not collapse where I was because I'm actually looking at this object. Because I'm looking at this object, it will not collapse that section of the content list to show it to me. All right, I have 1 minute left. Actually less than a minute, so I really don't have time to go over how case management works and to do all the possible permutations. So I do apologize for not answering your question. We're just not going to have the time to get to it today. So I apologize for missing that. If you want to contact me privately, I'll work on this a little bit later with you to show you what goes on there. However, it is 10:30. It is time for us to stop for today. So I don't want to use up any of your time or any more of your time, except to say thanks for joining me. I will look forward to joining you next month at the Spotlight webinar. For those of you on the training webinar, I will look forward to speaking with you on Thursday. Have a great week or month, as the case may be, and I'll see you next time. So long.